This is 5 Easy Plants to Prune by me, Cass Turnbull, and I work for an organization called Plant Amnesty, which is the world's only nonprofit organization to end the senseless torture and mutilation of trees and shrubs caused by malpruning. We have a lot of these slideshows. This is the 7th one, and we are funded by our grantors. God bless them. And who are they? They're the Washington State Department of Natural Resources, the Community Forestry Division, and the USDA Forest Service. They're great people, and they are interested in having you know that they are an equal opportunity employer. Aren't they generous and good? One of the reasons they are supporting this particular slideshow is that we're going to tell people some critical information about trees that they do not know and generally do not seek out. And that information has to do with where a tree's roots are. If you see this illustration, you'll notice that the tree on the left has a root system that pretty much mirrors the crown. And that is not how trees grow. That's on a picture on a lot of labels. It is not related to reality. The tree on the right is more characteristic of how a tree's roots actually grow. The anchoring roots are in the top 3 feet, and the feeder roots, or the fine roots, are in the top 3 inches. And what difference does this make? Why do we care? We care because a lot of trees die inadvertently because people don't know where the tree's roots are. They compact the roots by driving over them. You see this nice piece of equipment. If it's going to dig a trench for your power line or your patio, and it thinks that the roots go deep, it will do the wrong thing and crush all the roots, cut all the roots, or compact all the soil of your roots, and your tree will die 7 years later from mysterious causes. And really, you did it to your own tree. So please put the correct picture in your head and act accordingly. And incidentally, you shouldn't top your tree either. This is also a bad thing. But before we continue on, let's talk about the different kinds of cuts. There are only 3 basic cuts in pruning. They're the heading cut, the reduction cut, and the removal cut. They have 2 names, just like everything else in horticulture. We can't just have one name for something. And if people just understood the cuts and what was going to happen next, most of the senseless torture and mutilation of trees and shrubs caused by malpruning would not be happening. The first thing is the heading cut, and that's what people almost instinctually do, and it's almost always wrong. They whack off the tips of their shrub or tree, and instead of making something shorter, they explode into straight, ugly shoots called water sprouts. They're very fast growing. The shrub or tree very quickly reattains the height that it once was, and instead of having a pretty tree or shrub, you have a messy-looking tree or shrub. So we do not want to make heading cuts as a general rule. They're hard on the health of the plant. They don't keep it short. Occasionally we use heading cuts to make things bushy on small things and young things. But please put that picture in your head. The second kind of a cut, the one in the middle here, is called the reduction or the selective heading cut. And this is the right way to shorten the branch of a plant. You find the part that sticks out or sticks up and is too wide or too tall. You follow that part back to where it meets a side branch which is big enough, and you cut it off there. And suddenly your tree branch or shrub is shorter, but it looks more natural, and if that side branch is large enough, you don't get water sprouts or dieback. Of course, the big question is, how big is big enough? And the answer is, it depends. The third kind of cut, the one on the bottom, is called a removal cut because it removes the branch completely, taking it off back where it began as a bud on the parent stem. This is the smaller of the 2 forks, and it is the kindest cut for the plant. And why do we care about being kind to plants? Well, happy plants are good-looking plants. They don't have dieback. They don't have water sprouts. And that's why we have our plants, is to look good, generally speaking. So you can use removal cuts. A removal cut that is the same size as a reduction cut will actually be more likely to succeed on your tree or shrub. Unfortunately, the removal cut never made anything smaller. It just is like taking off the lower limbs of a tree or thinning out a camellia so it's more airy and see-through. So those are the three kinds of cuts, and generally what happens when you use them. The first category of shrubs are the mounding habit shrubs. They have a medium pruning budget. You can reduce them in size by about a quarter, and you can take off about a third of the foliage without getting into trouble. And what do I mean by trouble? I guess I mean water sprouts or dieback, or sometimes you can make your plant look funny. And we usually, when we're pruning these, tidy them up with selective heading or reduction cuts. You don't want to spend all day inside of one of these making it artwork. And the characteristic of mounding habit shrubs is that they have small leaves, and they're roughly blob-shaped, which is to say wider than they are tall, or they have soft wood. And this is just one of three categories of shrubs that we will be talking about. This is an illustration of how to reduce the size of your mounding habit shrub using selective heading or reduction cuts. You locate the branch that sticks out the most, follow it back to a side branch which is big enough, flip it off somewhere down inside the plant, and toss that limb out to the lawn. Then you blur your eyes, cast your eyes over the shrub to see the next part that bugs you the most. You follow it down to a side branch or sometimes clear to the ground, and you move around your shrub or group of shrubs, and using the selective heading or reduction cut, you can reduce the size or tidy up your shrub, and life is good. It should be mentioned that plants don't need to be pruned to bloom and do their best work. They do that all on their own. The only time we are pruning is when we have made a design error and planted a plant that's too big for the area, or maybe it's gotten a little kittywampus from previous malpruning. So just so you know, if your shrub looks good to you, leave it alone. You don't have to do anything to it. But this is how you fix it should you desire.